Hi, welcome or welcome back. My name is Anita and I mainly post content about grad school applications. So in today's video, this is a part 2 of the previous video that I have posted, and we will be continuing with Jude's grad school application journey. So just to do a recap, Jude is from Ghana and he is going to explain to us how exactly he got from doing his undergraduate in Ghana to being accepted to do a PhD in Oxford without having to do a master's.
So you mentioned also that Oxford is the only UK school that you applied to. So why was that? Why that anomaly?
I don't know. I wasn't really just feeling UK, and because most of the schools are out of reach, like Oxford is Oxford and Cambridge is Cambridge, right? So I wasn't
Here
thinking
you
about
are
them. I
going
have a
there.
list, so I have a list. I have a list of schools that's like generally I would like have MIT, Stanford, and everyone there. I wasn't actually thinking to apply, but there are people who push in like, Jude, yeah, MIT material, go and apply. But then I tried. I just wanted to do it to please them, like, oh, I'm applying to MIT so that it's not like it's not like, oh, they told me and I didn't apply. But then when I checked, unfortunately, in my school, KNUST, okay, in Ghana in general, our academic calendar changed because of COVID and there was a strike. So we graduated very late in November and we didn't have our certificates and transcripts until December. So because of that, when I finished, Cambridge was over, MIT, their deadlines were passed. So it was just Oxford and I wasn't thinking of still applying there. But then I don't know if you've heard about the Africa Oxford Society. So I saw this on LinkedIn. Someone posted it. I think it was Joshua Opelua or something. And he was like, Africa Oxford Society wants to help Africans go to Oxford. So if you are interested, you can apply. They can give you an application fee waiver and coach you, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay, this is cool. Once I'm not paying for it, that's cool. Yes, another factor is like the application fees, because like money is a big problem and pounds and all that. It's huge. So I applied through the Africa Oxford Society. That's another long story. I kept postponing it until like the last minute. Saturday, I remember the deadline was a Saturday. The deadline was 12 p.m. I submitted it around like 11 a.m. And I wasn't really confident because you had to add like a personal statement, and I just came up with something. But then a week later, I got accepted into it. We got the application fee waivers, went through something. And I was like, yeah, once I have an application fee waiver, I'll apply. And the deadline was 21st January. And that's how I applied to Oxford. And that too was a long process. Because when I was applying to Oxford through that program, I told them I was applying for an MSc, like, yes, a master's, right? But then once I got to the website, Oxford was like, their MSc programs are not funded. And so you should email the grad school before you apply. I emailed them and they're like, with my qualifications, I could do a DPhil because the MSc is not funded. But if I want to do an MSc, I could go to Cambridge or a different school. I was like, I have the waiver for this. And Africa Oxford Society kind of scared us by telling us that if you use your application fee waiver for a program you didn't apply for, your application may be revoked, right? So going back to choose a DPhil with the application fee waiver I had for an MS was hard, and I had to email them to tell them, okay, I made a mistake. I'm applying to DPhil, and the school said blah blah blah. It was a long process, so I had to do that back and forth to be certain I was applying a week before the deadline. And once they gave me the go ahead, I applied.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that you had advisors who saw the potential in you even when you could not see it. So that's the power of having good mentors, because they push you in the right direction. So my next bit would be to talk about the resources you used in your application, and I like that you've mentioned one of them, which was the African Oxford Society. So maybe you could mention if there are any other resources you used during your application, even to know what to do next. You could also talk more about the society. And I also like that you mentioned that you had the back and forth with the school. The school also advised you that maybe you're more qualified. You're qualified for a DPhil. You don't have to do an MSc because it's not funded. So this shows that when you reach out to the school also is willing to advise you on the right way forward. So maybe you could tell us about some resources that you found useful during your application.
Okay, so during application, yeah, I actually went through a whole transition and all, because at first I actually wanted to write the GRE based on some advice from people, especially from my US schools. So I went through it. There's a resource, they call them Scholarship Access Project. Scholarship Access Project. They have a channel on Telegram where they encourage African students to write the GRE. So you go through like a series of mock examinations online, and then later you do some in-person mock examinations, and then they get your aggregates, like the average of your scores. And then once you're above a certain level, then you get registered to write the GRE for free. So that's what I was actually doing. And so maybe you could set once you search on Telegram, in Scholarship Access Project, you'd see them. I met someone, and LinkedIn is very important, because once I graduated, people kind of feel intimidated by LinkedIn and they don't want to post. And I'm really encouraged by you, Anita. I post a lot. I think these days, I think it's been a long time I posted. Things happen, I really want to post, but I keep postponing. But you just have to do it. So once I graduated from school, I was the best graduating student in my class. I had set a record in my department since its inception. And I was like, okay, let me post this. So I posted it, and wow, like the thing blew. Like many people saw it. I was in the news in Ghana and all that. So once that happened, people reached out to me on LinkedIn and like, are you looking to apply to US schools? I can help you, blah, 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 stuff like that. So because of that, I got help from people, and people told me you could actually apply to some US schools without the GRE. They are waiving it. So it's good to kind of spread your wings, like cast your nets. You'd find people who are willing to help you and show you the way to go. One of them was a postdoc in Penn State. He actually called one of his friends, because I was applying to Penn State. He called one of his friends in Penn State to actually tell me what is required. And you see, some of the schools, you either have to email the professors. You need a professor before you get to the school, or some of them you apply and then they assign you to a professor later on. So he actually told me what Penn State does and how to reach out to professors. Another good thing is to have a draft of the emails you'll be sending to the professors, especially if you're looking for a PhD and a funded program. So you reach out to them and ask if they are interested in working with you, and mostly ask them if they would want to interview with you. So that's another thing. The emails are very important. It was very draining for me, especially writing the emails, because you'd write and you don't get replies and all that. But it actually paid off. One thing I'm sure a lot of people don't know about my admission to Oxford is that it was through an email I sent to a professor. And I wouldn't know until he told me himself. So I applied because someone told me that the big schools like Oxford, Cambridge, MIT, they don't reply your emails because the school has to accept you first. The school has to accept you. And so once I finished applying, so I didn't want to send the email, but I went to this professor's website and it was so interesting. Like he's talking about some interesting stuff, technology, and all. I was excited. So after applying, and mostly it's good to send the email before applying, but you can still send after. So after I went there, sent an email, inquiry from a prospective graduate student, 2022. And I told him I was interested in his research. And I hope that once I'm admitted, I'll be able to meet him at interview and he can discuss about the research and all that. So when during the interview, because I had 2 interviews, the first interview was for the first advertised topic I chose. The second interview was for that professor I wrote the email to. And he told me that if it wasn't because of the email I sent him, he wouldn't interview me. Yes, and I was so bummed. I was so surprised because I actually chose, I don't know whether with your program you did that, but for my program in Oxford, they advertise programs and then you have to choose the 4 you're interested in and add it to your statement of purpose. So his topic was second, but he told me that he only interviews people who put his topic first on their list. But because I emailed him, he chose me. And then he actually asked me, do I still want to interview with him? And I said, oh yeah, fine. And then we did it, and at the end, he was excited, and he told me he liked me. Another resource you can get online, they are on Twitter. There's Dear Young Grad, there's Opportunities Desk, there's Scholarship Corner. There are a lot of like free. Applying to University of Alabama was through an application fee waiver. I just saw it on Twitter and then I used it. So there are a lot of these resources. Once you make your mind to apply to grad school, you have to open your mind to the possibilities. You have to follow the people and accounts that would direct you in that direction and help you. And also like reviewing your SOPs and your CVs. Applying to Washington, University of Washington, I had a friend who was in University of Washington, and he also linked me to another friend who was actually doing a materials, because he wasn't doing a materials, but that lady friend of his was doing materials. And then she reviewed my resume. There are people like that who are willing to help you, but you just have to find them. It's good to always email the students. So my professor who I'll be working with at Oxford told me that it's always good to email the students. So he encouraged me to email his own students to know the culture of the lab, if I can work there, and I've been speaking with them and they've given me very good feedback. It's always good to get the students because the students are not so busy like the professors. Yeah. Right.
I like that you mentioned the power of networking, because I think I should mention at this point that we also met through LinkedIn. So people might think that we knew each other from before. Yeah, and that you should not be afraid to reach out to people. People are willing to help, but we have this notion in our heads that maybe you might not get a reply. Yeah, sometimes you don't get a reply because people are busy, but it's good to try and also to be persevering, because you might write once and maybe they did not see the email, maybe it got lost in the trail of mails, and maybe you can try writing again. So I like that you emphasize on the point of networking and reaching out to people, because people are always willing to help if they can. Yeah, so maybe you can tell us about how it was getting the acceptance email from Oxford.
Yeah, so like that was another thing, because after the email, so I had 2 interviews, and after the second interview, my professor was like, okay, so Jude, like he told me he liked me and he's going to recommend me, but then he doesn't know about the other group, right? So once I get the offer, I could even get offer letters from both groups, right? So I should choose the one I want. And I was like, this is too good to be true. I don't know what I'll do. And I didn't think I was so like qualified to be in Oxford, right? So I was just there. Even when I got the call for the interview, invite for the interview, I was like, hey, like I was so surprised, like, because it was I think it was 3 weeks after my application, and I got there 3 or 4 weeks after. I was so surprised. So I was there one day. You'd have sleepless nights, like you always think about it, like after the interviews actually. And I was like, okay, so these people are saying to come. When will we come? I followed people on YouTube, right? There's Mahnoor, Nadeem. There's a lot of Oxford people. There's a Jesus College professor who actually does YouTube videos and all. I'm sure you know him. You've also watched. Yeah. So Mahnoor is actually in Wolfson College, which I would be in. And so I reached out to her on YouTube and I was like, what is the timeline after your interview before you hear? I was so like apprehensive, like I want to hear something. And from the Oxford website, they tell you that it's like 8 to 10 weeks after your deadline, you hear from them. It wasn't up to 7 weeks, but I was so like apprehensive. I wanted to know what's up. And every day I'd always check my email. But the thing is, just like your story, it was when I wasn't looking, right? I was just there. I think that day I had gone to do some work with one of my professors. So I came back, my phone was off, and mostly my data is on and everything. I get notifications. But that day my phone was off. So I came, just around this time, 11, 12, thereabout. And I put on my phone, put on my data, and boom. And Oxford doesn't come like, congratulations, you be admitted. No, it's not like the US schools. Oxford come like, we have reviewed your application. And I'm like, and you don't know what that is like. Yeah, it's like it's a rejection, right?
Yeah. totally
and
get.
and yeah, and then they'll be like, oh, so you have been admitted. Then the last paragraph they'll say,
Congrats.
congratulate you, this is
Yeah.
an what feat, and you should celebrate and blah blah blah. And then they CC'd my professor. So once they CC'd that professor, I was like, oh yeah, so I actually got into this group. So I didn't get the two offers. I got the second one.
So maybe as we're almost finishing, you could tell us some of the key lessons that you got from the whole application journey.
Okay, sure. So the first thing is for you to start early, right? You can never underestimate that. As I said, we had a strike and then we had a late graduation and everything. So it's like I have to go to school. So I was trying my best to do. So if you look at it, maybe my first applications weren't that good. Yes. But then as you go on, you build on it. And that's why it's also good to have people to review your material. Yes, have a good relationship with your professors so they can write recommendations. Never underestimate your cold emails. Like as I said, send those emails, but also get the right structure to write them. At least it should have some important information there, but not too long. And have everything you need there. Introduce yourself, say why you're interested. Anything that would let you stand out in the email. Yes, you are the best graduating student or in the top 1%, or yeah, first class. Those things, you put it there. And then you draw like a synergy between you and him. You're a materials engineering graduate. What research are you interested in? And at the end, the last paragraph, just thank him and kind of tell him you're interested in working with him. Would it be possible for you guys to have like a video call to like discuss your research stuff? That's like a call to interview, but you don't actually say it like that. If they're interested, they'll reach out to you again. So that's also very important. I'd also tell you, especially with the US schools, if you want to get scholarships and all, always write like the examinations, right? If you have to write the English proficiency test, the TOEFL, the IELTS, you have to write it. If you have to write the GRE too, it's very important. You have to, if you can afford it. And so it's good to start preparing in advance, because the application cycle, I think, will start around August. So you could take this time to prepare and all, and reach out to the students, students in the labs, students in the schools. They can also help you. And yes, you can also email the schools if you have any other questions. Pray, and then everything will be fine.
And we hope for the best. Okay, so maybe
Sure.
as we finish, you could tell us what it is you're looking forward to the most at Oxford and during your DPhil.
Yeah. So basically, I'm really excited about networking, meeting new people, and for a place like Oxford where you kind of meet intellectuals who like are the best of the best. I hope to leverage on that network to build myself, both personally and then professionally, and also in the area of research. Like Oxford is in the top 5 in the world, like top 3. And so I want to leverage on the equipment. They have like the best nanoscribe equipment in the world for flexible technologies. And coming out of Oxford, I should be able to, my professor told me, we go from fabrication of the electronic devices or to its application. And so I'm so excited for that. And hopefully I can contribute meaningfully to the development of technology.
That was it for today's video. I'll see you in my next video where I will be showing other people's experiences in applying for grad school. Bye!